One player that I think that we were extremely excited about, and he has taken not just a step back, but I think closer to a leap backwards, and that's Cam Taylor-Britt. He, on a defense that is trending towards one of the worst in the league, we expected to have a shutdown corner in Cam Taylor-Britt. Stride, year after year, he gotten better since we drafted him. And this year, he has gotten burnt. Do I think some of it is exacerbated by the fact that we can't get to the quarterback? Undoubtedly. I mean, when you can't get to a passer, the whole defense looks bad because, I mean, you can only defend for so long. You can only defend a play. A play shouldn't be longer than 4 seconds. But man, oh man, I don't think any of us saw this going forward. Is he the biggest drop-off year over year? Is he the biggest letdown?
I think it's between him and the linebackers, and they have been able to kind of claw back over the last few weeks to put together some better film. So I think at this point it definitely is Cam, and I think his expectations were just so high coming into the season that I don't know if they were entirely feasible. Everyone was talking about him as if he was going to be a no-doubt number one lockdown corner, yeah. and I think now the discourse around him when he hasn't played very well is as if he has fallen off from that point. I don't think he was ever there. I think Bengals fans elevated his level of play a lot throughout the offseason, kind of optimistically, hoping that he could play up to that level, and I still don't know that he can't. I think he can. I think he's a very talented player who has hit a bump in the road that he has to figure out a little bit how to play NFL football. I think he gets beat deep way too much. He's way too over-aggressive, and that comes back to bite him. But it certainly is a regression, but I don't know if it's as big as people think because I think we built him up so far above what he actually was throughout the offseason. But still, not something this Bengals defense can withstand, especially when you're paying the offense as much money you need to hit on these draft picks. And if he's trending towards that massive, massive group of defensive draft picks that are misses instead of being in what we thought was surely the small group of hits, then it's just another step in the wrong direction for this Bengals defense.
Let me push back on that because I think he is so far away from being a miss.
No, I know. I'm just saying if he goes that way, we're down to one defensive draft hit in this era, two.
I like it's still not good.
Right, that's what I mean.
Still not good. In the last 5 years, I think they've hit on 2 defensive players, and I would put Cam Taylor-Britt as one of them. I'd put the other as Logan Wilson.
Right.
I think Logan Wilson is a hit. I think it's hard to argue the other way. Although he did take a step back last year, I think he's playing okay. He's playing okay this year. He's playing fine. But when it comes to Cam Taylor-Britt, yes, he's so far away from being a miss, so I'm not going to go there. I think that we maybe had not the right expectations, and maybe that's the trend on this entire team, is we had just too high of expectations. You expect to see a player continue to trend the right way. That's how we work in our brains. We're very hard to just say that this player is this. We expect him to either get better, we expect him to even get worse. I famously said that Spencer Steer, from his first year in the league, I wouldn't expect it to get better. And it hasn't. And it maybe, I think what you saw last year and the year before, that's about what you're getting from Spencer Steer. So when you're looking at Cam Taylor-Britt, you expect him, he's getting better, He's turned from this second-round pick to where he was a 2 cornerback. Now he's our 1. Now we're putting him on the lockdown. Can he go into being one of the guys that we talk about, Britt Island? No. I think that's becoming abundantly clear.
Are you retiring
future
former
star.
Husker?
Oh, no.
It's still alive? Well,
he's still a former Husker.
Is it former Husker, current Bengal, future CB2?
So
future CB2 on a
so
championship team?
Here's how it started. It was former Husker, current Bengal, future star. I did change it one time.
Okay.
And what I changed it to was former Husker, current Bengal, future Hall of Famer. I might have got over my skis on that one.
So are we dialing that one back?
Yes.
Are we sticking with star?
Do
we go future corner 1 on a top 15 draft pick?
He's a current CB1. Maybe just not one of the best CB1s in the league. You know what? I won't retire yet. I'm not giving up on Cam Taylor-Britt. I just think it is a con to this season that he's taken
absolutely.
a major step back. And like I said, a lot of it has to do with not being able to get to the quarterback. A lot of it has to be able to do not get to the quarterback. Speaking of that, the other con that I have is it's becoming abundant.
Joe Burrow?
It's it's become abundant. What did I get on, man?
We need another Reed in his car video.
I didn't realize how crazy I looked. When I made
You
that,
were losing your mind.
I really was. See, that's where I tell people I act like a fool during Bengals games, and I somewhat can control it. Some of it's heightened. I went back and watched that video, and when I posted it, I didn't like sometimes you're like, oh, this is a good bit. I did that thinking, oh, man, I nailed all the points. I'm just being a fan. Like, someone needs to say this. And I went back and watched it like 2 days later, and like someone's like, dude, are you okay? That video, you looked insane. And I was like,
if you think Joe Burrow's the problem, you're dumb.
It's not the best argument. That's actually the worst part of the conversation that I had when I made that video is I didn't articulate my point well enough because I just kept calling the other person dumb. And anytime you just call the other person dumb, that's not a good argument. That's just not. Just throw it away.
It's funny though.
No, it's not. It's really not. I still think that, though. I still think that people that hate on Joe Burrow truly believe that they're being the smartest person in the room. Like, you guys are all fans. I see the truth. And meanwhile, if you hate on Joe Burrow, guess what? You're the idiot. So I just did it again.
I love it.
When it comes to the Bengals defense, though, I mentioned this earlier in the show, that one of the reasons that the defense got – the year before we drafted Joe Burrow, the Cincinnati Bengals defense was the worst in the league. They clearly didn't have any linebackers. They went and addressed. They drafted 4 linebackers in that draft. Go look at it. It went Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, linebacker. That's how they did it. 3 of those linebackers, I think, are still on the team. I think it's Logan Wilson,
AJ.
Was Jermaine Pratt? He was the year prior. He was the year before that. Okay. Regardless, the big reason why the defense was so good is because we were hitting on these defensive free agents. Trey Hendrickson. Everyone laughed at us when we got Trey Hendrickson. Everyone's like, he only gets sacks because Cam Jordan. He's been absolutely unbelievable. Everyone laughed at us when we took Eli Apple off the scrap heap. He was a pretty solid cornerback for years. Owuzie, pretty freaking good for his entire run here in Cincinnati. Von Bell the first time around, pretty freaking good. It's at least becoming abundantly clear to me, your old friend Rita-Roo, that whatever happens in how we looked at defensive talent, it's off kilter a bit. We can't hit on free agents. We can't hit on draft picks. I mean, coming into last year, how did we replace Jesse Bates? Impossible to do, right? I still hold that's the right way to go about business. I still hold that you can't pay a safety $20 million or whatever he gets paid. But we went out and got Nick Scott. Man, oh man, how terrible was that? And then this year, we come in and we get the 2 biggest free agent signings we had were Geno Stone, who was second in the league in interceptions last year on one of the best defenses. And he looks not good at all. And then Sheldon Rankins, who I raved about, that this is what good teams do. They get a presence from the middle of the line that can get to the quarterback. He isn't quite there. I mean, he's been hurt, been banged up, but he's not there either. So it's just becoming abundantly clear to me that a con of this team is not being able to accurately judge defensive talent the way that they did just seemingly 4 or 5 years ago. And that's what's crazy about this sport is how quickly things turn around, how quickly it does turn around. What's funny, and I mentioned this in the offseason, when it comes to Geno Stone and Sheldon Rankins, and I truly believe that this is part of the reason that they signed these guys. I want you to go look up their logs last year, their game logs. You know when they played their best game, Sheldon Rankins and Geno Stone? It came against the Cincinnati Bengals. Sheldon Rankins had 3 sacks for the Texans last year when they beat us at Paycor. Geno Stone, the best play he had of the year was an incredible interception against Joe Burrow on a deep ball in week 2. Their best games are against the Bengals. So is that what we're doing now? We just watch a game. We throw the rest of the playbooks out. We throw the rest of the tape out and just go like, oh, man, that dude was a dog. Remember that game he had against us? That's what we're doing now? We're not going any deeper? I don't know. Is this one of your biggest concerns going forward, that we can't judge defensive talent anymore?
The biggest concern for me going forward, because if you are going to operate the way the Bengals have operated and how they're going to continue to operate, you have to be able to draft defensive talent. There's no way around it. There's no money left for top free agents after you extend Jamar Chase, and now we're talking about potentially extending T. Higgins as well. There's not enough money left to make, massive investments in the defense. You have to hit in the draft, and you have to be able to rotate those guys out when they're eligible for big-time second contracts and hit again and supplement those guys in. That's what the Chiefs have been able to do, and that's why they've been able to compete the whole time. That's what the Patriots did for years, and that's why they stayed at the top of the league. Rebuilding on the fly is what makes teams great. You can't go to the end of the line with the current roster, let everyone leave, and then just fall off a cliff. You have to go with the ebbs and flows, and the reason why the Chiefs are so scary is because they won a Super Bowl last year on a down year roster-wise, and then the roster got better, and we're going to see what happens this year and beyond, but the Bengals now have a down year roster-wise, and we're sitting at 2-4. Other teams have down year roster-wise, and they win a Super Bowl. So, and it goes back to the draft and hitting in the mid to late rounds of the draft. The Chiefs drafted their starting running back in a Super Bowl year in the 7th round.
Well, I don't know if I necessarily agree with the Chiefs have a better roster this year than they do last year. I think it's pretty on par, but they let one of the best cornerbacks in the league just walk.
Yeah.
He went to the Titans, and they're 5-0 now. You get your corner. I do this all the time. When you're building a roster, you get your cornerstones. What's the hardest thing to get? And that is an elite quarterback. Bengals got it. I don't care what any of the Joe Burrow detractors say. The Bengals got it. They got the elite quarterback. Behind that, you get a good coach. I don't know if Zach Taylor's a great coach. I think he's a fine coach. But you keep him in the room because you want a level of consistency. You want to keep that consistent cornerstone, like a constant voice going, all right, this is how we do things here. And behind that, you get a cornerstone on the line, Orlando Brown. And behind that, you get a great pass rusher. That's what the good teams have. That's what the Bengals have. They have an elite quarterback. They have a dang good left tackle. They have an elite pass rusher. They have a good coach. Everything else, you're supposed to be able to fall into place. Supplement it with some money here and there, hit on some draft picks, but if you're just competent, if you're just somewhat okay at drafting the defensive side of the ball, this team's much better. This team's much better. Last year, the big thing was health. That's why the Bengals didn't have the season that we expected them to have last year. It was health. We can look at everything else. It was health. Joe Burrow got hurt beginning of the year. Didn't play like the Joe Burrow we expect. When he got healthy, he looked at the Joe Burrow we expected. And then it was thrown away with Joe Burrow ending the season. This year, it's defense. It just is. That's why we're not where we're supposed to be. Simple as that. That's what these teams do. They get their cornerstone players. I think the Bengals have that. They have I mean, look at it. Look at all the dynasties. They have the same thing. They have a pass rusher, they have a great man on the offensive line, and they have a great pass catcher. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Orlando Brown, Trey Hendrickson. And Orlando Brown and Trey Hendrickson are closer to the end than they are at the beginning. I just don't understand how we can't fill in the pieces more. But like I said, I'm not going to be super negative because I think we can spin this around with just a couple wins. I think if we get into the postseason, that's all I'm hoping for. And I want to have whatever home team has to host us. I want them to sweat. I want them to sweat.